That shows you just how difficult it is for people to leave. When we tell you to evacuate, it's not an easy request or demand for that matter. It's a difficult thing for all these people to leave so much behind. But the whole point about these evacuations is that your life is more important than anything that you may own. And these evacuations are purely to keep this from becoming deadly, which is what we want to avoid altogether if we can.
And you could hear it in that man's voice, man. He says, it's all about my daughter. I think so many of us here, and I'm sure many of you too, can feel it swelling in your throat sometimes. You know, it's when you're talking about making sure your family's safe, you know, staying in your house becomes a second priority, and unfortunately not everybody's able to leave, but yeah, he was. You know? Exactly,
and this Hurricane Irma, just like any natural disaster, has no prejudice. It doesn't care who you are, whether you're famous, rich, poor. For example, country singer Kenny Chesney, he owns a home on St. John in the U.S. Virgin Islands. That home right there was destroyed by Hurricane Irma.
The country singer, who was not in the area at the time of the storm, described the devastation on CNN. Listen in.
So you might as well even expect that to happen and potentially be without power for days or even weeks, but let's hope for the best. Let's hope that's not the case. Comcast is offering free Wi-Fi to help you get weather updates and stay in touch with friends and family during the hurricane. They've opened more than 137,000 Wi-Fi hotspots throughout Florida for anyone to use. To connect, go to your settings and make sure Wi-Fi access is enabled. If you're in range of a hotspot, you'll see Xfinity Wi-Fi as an option in the list of available networks. Xfinity customers should automatically connect, or you can sign in with your username and password. If you're not a customer, click on Not an Xfinity Internet Customer on the sign-in page. Enter your email address and zip code to connect. You can renew Comcast complimentary sessions every 2 hours. Right now, Wink News is in the middle of continuous coverage of Hurricane Irma. If you lose power, there are several ways to stay in touch with Wink News. We're live streaming on the Wink News app right now. We're also simulcasting our signal on 4 radio stations. Those stations are 96.9 Wink FM, 94.5 The Arrow, 93.7, 93X, and 92.5 Fox News Radio. So make sure to tune in. And for constant hurricane updates, head over to the Wink News website. Our timestamp story includes the latest forecast and updated advisory information at the top of our homepage. You can also find an updated list of hurricane shelters, numbers to call for hurricane information, mandatory evacuation information, sandbag locations, and helpful tips from meteorologist Jim Farrell and our other meteorologists. If you can't watch our broadcast on TV but have a Wi-Fi signal, you can watch the live stream of our continuous coverage online. Just look for Wink News Live at the top of the page at winknews.com. Southwest Florida is bracing for powerful winds, rain, and storm surges, just as Matt was telling us. Let's take you live now to our Skycam over downtown Fort Myers for a look now that the sun is rising. You can see that it looks somewhat calm, but you can also tell that considering it's about 8:18 right now and the sun is rising, it's very gloomy conditions out there. The rain is coming down and the winds are picking up. Now we want to give you a live look in Estero. This is at the Hyatt Coconut Point. That actually looks pretty similar to what we've been showing you over the past hour or two. Rain is covering that camera right now. Similar gloomy gray conditions. So the rain continues to come down in that part. It really is at your own risk to head out on the roads at this point. We've heard about emergency officials all across our areas backing out. They're stopping their services. They're taking their own crews off the roads, which is an indication that you yourself, of course, should not be out there either.
Yeah, law enforcement's out, but as far as emergency, personnel go, they are taking themselves off the roads because they want to err on the side of caution if you do head out. I want to bring in Wink News anchor Britni McDonald. And Britni, for the last 2 days, you've actually been at Lee County Emergency Management, and it's really a sight to see if you haven't seen. We'll bring up some video in a minute, but I mean, that's really where everybody who's controlling different aspects of this is running, and just kind of paint the picture what it's like there for us.
Yeah, talk about a fluid situation. I mean, I was right next to the Situation Room, which is where all of these emergency personnel.
And it's called the Situation Room?
It's literally called the Situation situation room. I'm not making this up. No, I mean, that is where the county leaders are, emergency personnel, everyone that you would want to basically be taking care of your safety is in this room, deciphering each situation. They have monitors closely watching the radar. Here's video right now where you can see inside the situation room. It's better if you can take a look at it. But you can see that people are on the phones. They're working around the clock. They are watching the radar closely. They're watching traffic cameras closely. They're talking with the National Guard. There's 7,000 active members ready to go. They talked about volunteers. I mean, Governor Scott showed up yesterday for quite some time. And so minute by minute when I was there, it was a perfect place to be because I could really get frequent updates from them on what their plan was, and it changed a lot.
I mean, what do you think right now their biggest concern is? Obviously, so many people are worried about the storm surge, and how can they monitor that from where they are?
Well, you know, it's difficult. I know when I was there, they were talking about shelters.
Right.
You know, and even since I left a few hours ago to come back to the studio, things have changed.
Sure.
So, you know, for them, they have the best experts there to monitor those situations when it comes to weather, and they are very aware of the effects and the potential destruction that could come. And what's great about this is we are out of the thick of it. And I mean, I want to reiterate that it is over and we got through it. And fortunately, some of this wasn't as bad as initially thought, but that doesn't, you know, make it much better for some of these people who are going home, including some of our staff. I mean, a lot of us don't know what we're going home to, so we're right there with you. And, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, but we're really not going to know until daylight hours, and we're going to be able to see really the extent of the damage. And so this is, unfortunately, you know, the worst of it is over, and it's only going to get better from here, but it's also, you know, it's going to be a long road ahead for some people.
Yeah, fortunately, we can take a breath now, finally, after all that lead up to the storm, and now it's over. We got through that. Now you got to be careful, though, with everything that's out there. When you go out, there's possibly some power lines down, so don't rush to get home if you're away. Just be careful getting home. Take it slowly. Make sure the first responders have gone in there, and then when you can go back to be safe, that's the whole key.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to be hard for people. They're so anxious. A lot of us are. I mean, we are so anxious to get home. All of us want to go home. But you really just have to hang out for just a little bit. At least wait until that curfew is over. It's just a few hours away, and you can get home safely because the damage is done at this point, and a lot of people are going to be without power too. So.
Yeah, that is so true.
What do you expect for today? I know it was, a lot of it was that anticipation and buildup, and I know that you and a lot of the emergency officials were extremely prepared for this. So how do you feel about going into today, and what do you expect to come out of it? How much do you think you'll be able to do? And I think it's important to point out too, with the fire department, you guys are not, it's not just fires. You know, they report to every single emergency typically. And so you guys, I mean, it's really a treat this morning to even have you over the phone to get an idea of what you guys are going to be doing, because you're going to be busy. I mean, you typically respond to emergencies and calls and, you know, all those 911 calls. So you guys are just normally busy on an everyday basis. So this is going to be, what, a days-long process, I would imagine, for you guys?
Well, yes, certainly a days long.
Hundreds and thousands across our area are without power and could possibly be for days. But we want to get out to Florida Power and Light. We have David McDermott on the phone with us. Dave, can you tell us where the power outages are at right now? How many people are without power? And Mayor Henderson, this entire weekend, especially yesterday and coming into this morning, the entire nation's eyes are really on Fort Myers specifically, as initially we thought that it was coming directly for the city here. It ended up really hitting Marco Island and Naples the hardest. Fort Myers seemed to really luck out. Would you say that that's the case, that we kind of lucked out and in all of this?
Well, thank you for bringing that up.
And at last check from LCEC, there's nearly 11,000 without power on the island. So a lot, you know, just doesn't even have power. So it's better if you're not on the island. And of course, we know that bridge is extensive, so you want to make sure it's safe to pass over that. Any indication of when it will be safe enough to come back? And as we've been telling you all weekend, that emergency response center is really where they make a definitive plan. And typically they're already one step ahead of it. They already knew yesterday probably what their response is going to be here today. So it's going to be great to hear from them and see where they go from there. We're going to try to press them for answers on, even gas, like what gas stations are open and if it's safe for people to head out. And Collier County is kind of our focus today since as we continue on in the morning, that seems to be one of the hardest hit. Take a look at this new video we're getting out of the Florida Keys. This is on Big Pine Key. There are boats strewn across the roadway. This was shot late yesterday afternoon after the most severe parts of the storm had passed over. Just a devastating scene in the Keys, and as the morning continues on, we'll start to get a better idea of the scope of the damage left behind, not only there, but of course locally. However, the Keys, I think, experiencing a lot more damage than we are.
The video we're seeing out there is really heartbreaking.
Yes. All Collier and Henry County schools are closed today through Friday until further notice. Lee County schools are closed until Tuesday. Cape Coral Municipal Charter Schools are also closed today.
And we do want to let you know that Florida Gulf Coast University extended its closures today. They now tell us that they are going to remain closed all week long.
Florida Southwestern State College will remain closed through Wednesday, September 13th. All of these closings include the FSW campuses in Fort Myers, Naples, and Punta Gorda, plus the Henry Glades Curtis Center in LaBelle. FSW's collegiate high schools and child care centers will also remain closed. And just a reminder, bridges won't reopen until they are deemed safe. The Lee County Department of Transportation and the Florida Department of Transportation will inspect their respective bridges today to ensure structural integrity and safety. As we just told you, the Sanibel Causeway was deemed safe and reopened, but again, not to motorists this morning. You should really just stay off the roads altogether until emergency officials have time to get out and respond. This came from Caroline Allison. A tree went down in Burnt Store aisle and it barely missed her car. There are downed trees and power lines all over the place, so definitely be careful when you do head out this morning, even if it's just stepping out your front door. This is going to be critical to hear from them momentarily because it's really going to give us an idea of how they're going to respond to this. And as we've been telling you all weekend, that emergency response center is really where they make a definitive plan. And typically they're already one step ahead of it. They already knew yesterday probably what their response is going to be here today. So it's going to be great to hear from them and see where they go from there. We're going to try to press them for answers on, even gas, like what gas stations are open and if it's safe for people to head out. And Collier County is kind of our focus today since as we continue on in the morning, that seems to be one of the hardest hit.
Okay, so again, as soon as they start talking at the podium, we'll make sure to try to bring that to you.
Well, Sarasota County deputies have a warning for you. They say stay inside. They say a driver got stuck under a fallen tree. In this video, they're working to get that person out. No word yet on the driver's condition, and we're going to take you out to the EOC in Collier County.
Yesterday, and certainly a very difficult night.
The main takeaway from that press conference is that residents are not allowed on Marco Island. So even if you wanted to head back and see your damage, which I know people are anxious to do, you are not allowed on the island. So we just heard that from the EOC. We have Wink News reporter Michelle Kingston on Marco Island right now. And so Michelle, I know you've just found some more damage out there, and knowing that residents can't come out, have you seen people around?